important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to Degen Roundtable Book Club episode number 83, where we are covering The Alabaster Girl by Perrion. And my name is Will Stevenson. I will be your host for tonight. I selected this book because I was inspired by Brandon Joe Williams, who spoke about it at length during his Pickle-Taria courses and things. And we covered one of his books earlier on. But anyways, I'm Will Stevenson. I used to be a tower climber that would travel the world and knock down TV towers, but lately I've been making a career shift in things. I'm joined tonight by the fantastic Mr. Zenith of the Degen Roundtable. He is our legal and government analyst and expert, and we're going to be chit-chatting about a very poetic book. It's like 19 hours long on Audible. This one was a bit of a stretch. This one was a bit of a homework. It wasn't quite as long as The Great Wave or oh shoot, what's that one by Adam Smith, Zenith? I can't fucking remember.
The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. The 36-hour audiobook.
Oh my god, it's ridiculous. And for the folks at home in the chats, if Zenith sounds extra bassy tonight, can you put a 1 in the chat? Because I don't know if it's just me or if it's everyone, but it's like you sound a little bit like Tony Robbins. Like, here's Zenith's normal talking level, and here's what I'm hearing come through the audio. So it sounds great. I like it. As if Zenith is talking like this all the time. So put 1s in the chat if that's what you guys hear. Put 2s in the chat if he sounds normal. I fucking love it. I think it's great. It might just be my internet over here because I have a bit of a shitty connection. But anyways, what's new and exciting with you, broski? How are you doing?
I am doing well. Just getting ready to bear down on our winter storm coming through. I think I checked the weather. We're supposed to get like 3 inches, which for the crazy winter weather storm, it's like, it's not that much.
Yeah. Oh, that is crazy awesome. Mr. Hex Glenn says that you. Oh, and Sam. You're coming in super duper bass. That's awesome, bro. I don't know what you did with your mic setup, or if you're sick or something, but now Sam's giving us a 2. Okay, thank you, Sam. But anyways, you guys are getting snowed over there. We're getting snowed over here too in good old Tejas. But yeah, man, it's 3 inches in the place where you're at up in the mountains is not terribly crazy, but anything other than a light rain in Texas and people lose their fucking minds. I went to the propane station earlier today to get more propane for the camper, so that way it stays nice and warm and things. But I'm glad that I did, because there was like a line of like people. I had to wait like 30 minutes just to get refilled propane, and everyone was freaking the fuck out. It's crazy, man. When there's possibility of snow in Texas, people lose their goddamn minds. So it's fucking ridiculous. So it's good that you're going to be getting your 3 inches of normal snow. And anything else new and exciting? It's been a while since we've seen you, broski. What have you been up to?
I was only gone for like 1 week.
Yeah, I know.
I guess it was the long weekend, so just doing all that kind of stuff, and then trying to keep up with all the news going on with the Clarity Act. I was hoping that it would, maybe go get a vote last week, but got pushed out 2 more weeks. So we're gonna have to wait and see. But gosh, everyone's saying my mic settings sound weird. I have not
like there's a golf ball covered in mayonnaise.
That's one way to put it.
Hey, there's a lot of cool shit going on, and hey, whatever gets him to sound like Tony Robbins and be like 3 or so octaves lower, I think it's pretty cool. So whatever your mic settings are, It's fun and exciting. But anyway, speaking of fun and exciting, it's time for the fun and exciting part of the show, chat motherfucking shoutouts, where we shout out the folks at home who like to tell Zenith how his mic is all doing a great and awesome time. We are joined first and foremost by my wonderful and awesome brother who says, "Let's go." Shout out to Sam Stevenson. I'm going to be working for Sam, Zenith. In case you didn't know, the tower company that I was working for, they liquidated. They are no longer in existence, and so I was like, well, I guess this is an opportunity for me to pursue new things. And there's other tower companies I could work for, but I'm going to help Sam with his business. I'm going to be doing sales for him, so I'm going to be doing a lot of calls, a lot of setting, and he's going to be doing the closing and the actual like providing the product. But yeah, it'll be fun and awesome and exciting. So shout out to Sam. Good to see you in the chat, Broski. We're also joined by Mr. Kenturian54X, who says, "What's up, Degens? What's up to you too? Good sir. Glad to see everyone's favorite pilot, farmer, and dungeon master. Welcome, welcome." We also got Mr. Slide 180, my good friend Josh, who gives us the cheers. Man, I have nothing to cheers with. I guess I could grab a sparkly water from the fridge, but all of my garage beers are over in the other place. So shout out to you, Mr. Slide 180, Mr. Josh. Good to see you, bro. Skis at F. Cheers right back to you, good sir. We're also joined by Mr. Hex Glenn. Hex Glenn gives us the wave, and of course, the number one, letting us know that Zenith has that extra buttery, super low voice. I wonder what it is. That's so cool. Hey, fuck it, dude. It's not bad. It's not a bad thing. It is just like it was throwing me off. But yeah, your mic is cutting out a little bit periodically, but it's like a 2 to 5% thing, so not a problem at all. Mr. Kenturian actually lets you know he just got done playing golf. It's been nice weather up here.
Ooh.
The greens are like concrete, but still a good time. So that's good to know. And apparently Sam cannot stop laughing listening to you, so that's hilarious. Yes, I will be working with Sam. Most assuredly, I will be working with Sam. But yeah, that about covers the chat shoutouts and things. Thank you guys for letting us know that that there's going to be some stuff. Also, Zenith, I have some fun and exciting news, and I don't know. Or no, I did share with you in the leadership chat, but I got a whole bunch of these fancy schmancy little hex doodle pads, which you guys can get too. You don't have to just be like me and just get a bunch, or you don't have to be like you and not have hex doodle pads. You can be like me and go and order them at DeFiDoodles.com. Let me see if I can pull that up. I'm pretty sure it's DeFiDoodles.com. It might be a different DeFiDoodle.lander. Oh no, I'm getting like a GoDaddy thing. Never mind. I don't know what the link is, but you guys can find it over on RG3's Twitter page thing, whatever. But anyways, go order you guys some tablets. Go get you some. And I ordered 24 of them, 12 with magnets and 12 without magnets. And I just shipped a bunch of them out. And boy, howdy, was it more expensive to ship than I had anticipated. So that was fun. So I'm glad that the winners of the DeFi. So we had Arceus 1, and we also had Mr. Kenturian 54X 1, and then there was an amigo that who sent me some DMs and sent me some shipping money, so I shipped it out to him as well. But we've got some people that have some pretty cool DeFi doodle pads coming their way. So that's what's new and exciting with me. That's what's new and exciting with the channel. That's what's new and exciting with the chat shoutouts. Glad that we have you all with us here today. There's 4 of you guys watching live, all from YouTube. So we love each and every one of you, all 4 of yous. So I'm guessing it's Hex, Glenn, Sam, Kenturian, and Mr. Slide 180. That's fucking awesome. I love each and every one of you guys, and I'm sure that Mr. Battle-Hardened Sniper will roll in towards the end of the show and give us his cheer, as he is always want to do. But let's go ahead and
we know he is.
He is watching and waiting in a bush for that perfect moment to snipe his shot and take out the Degen Roundtable. Before I launch into the summary of, or actually, should I do the summary or should I ask you what your thoughts are on the book before I talk about it? What do you think?
Let's talk about the book a little bit beforehand, because I don't think this is going to be quite. It was not quite the book I was expecting.
Really?
And yeah, so
okay.
The way I would describe this book is it is similar to when people of your old day and older age and stuff write about like poetically and very like waxing, not philosophically, but just like I guess as the kids would say these days, really just glazing something, really just trying to just appreciate it. And it's like, it's a writing as a way of appreciating beauty. And that really is the book. It is an homage to appreciating beauty and appreciating love, and then understanding like the facets of it and how the author believes the way that it is through his travels and stuff. And it is 18 hours long, but to be honest with you, I was able to do it at 3 times speed, so it only took me 6 hours.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
It's an interesting book because it does kind of start off as like telling a story narratively, like being on a train, but then it does transition more to like structured thought as you get further into the book. But really, the book for me, as the way I would describe it, is it's like man talks about beauty, all the ways that he enjoys beauty, how he got to the point where he is, and then ultimately like kind of like the not the end state, but his current state of like, here's where I'm at in my life and what I do and how I move. And it's very atypical. And here's some of the things that I experience, here are things that other people experience, that kind of stuff. But it's an interesting one because it was written in 2023 or published in 2023 anyways. But if I had to say, I would say that like the guy probably wrote it or experienced most of the things back in like the 70s, 80s, and 90s, I'd argue. Because that's kind of like the time frame that it felt like for me.
Yeah. He is 50 something years old. So probably would have been like a young adult in the 90s, I think. But yeah, it does feel very older. And also like the book is supposed to be more of like storytelling and philosophical and stuff rather than like in the book it's read from the first person as if Zan Perrion is the one who is the subject of the book. And by the way, for you guys that don't know, who haven't read the book starts off with Zan Perrion is on a train and he's being interviewed by a female reporter. And she starts kind of asking him questions. And then he just basically like launches off into his tirade. And you get to kind of experience like the philosophy of Zanparian as if he's this person in the train, not necessarily recounting his stories, but just recounting stories that and I don't know if all of these all the women in this book are like or like the examples in this book are like true stories from Zanparian's life, or if they're just kind of like, you know, thought models or something of that nature. He never really clarifies, which is kind of like the poetic part of the book, is that it's like it's very hypothetical. And I was trying to sell the idea of this book to someone the other day. I think it was brother Sam, as a matter of fact. But the book, there's a very good quote in there where it's like, I know 4 things about women and I'm going to tell you 3. And it's just like that's very like it's very like poetic and teasing, and just kind of in the nature of the entire book. So it's very philosophical. Most of it's about like talking about self experience and talking about like asking questions and thinking of things differently, not about like, hey, do this, do this, do this. It's not very structural. It's very unlike a lot of the things that we've been reading and a lot of the stuff that I tend to gravitate more towards. But yeah, it's a very interesting book. I'll go ahead and launch into the summary. And
tell you what, well, you're
go
doing
ahead.
the summary. I'm gonna restart the computer real quick and try to
Okay.
figure out the mic issue.
Okay, sounds good. We'll see you back
Be right
here
back.
in a moment. You're gonna log into producer slot so I don't have to add you, or are you gonna need me to add
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Okay, cool. We'll see you in a
All right,
second.
see you in
All
a
right,
minute.
ladies and germs, here we go. So the summary of The Alabaster Girl. It is a philosophical meditation on masculinity, beauty, and love disguised as a book about seduction. Rather than offering tactics, Zanparian argues that attraction emerges naturally from presence, inner order, and a man's relationship to himself and the world. The book matters because it challenges optimization culture, performance masculinity, and traditional thinking. Um, Ideas that degens builders and sovereign-minded people constantly wrestle with. I think this is ChatGPT starting to give me like feedback that is purposefully tailored to my line of thinking and stuff. But it one of the things that he talks about in the book as well is that he speaks of beauty as like a state of being, and like hotness or attractiveness as like a state of physicality. So like the world that we live in today is we're surrounded by people that have the physicality, that have the like it's like a polished surface with nothing of substance on the inside. And this is, Sam, if you'll remember our conversation from last night, this is sort of kind of what I was talking about, what I was alluding to, is that like beauty is a state of being more so than a state of like looking. Like anybody can buy fake tits, anybody can go to the gym and like, you know, build up like physical, like pretty looking muscle, you know, but like being able to much like Kenturian would go and like pick up a big ass fucking bale of hay and like throw it, like functional work versus like work that is earned from beauty and stuff. So this book talks about like the difference between inner beauty and existential beauty versus like the kind of stuff that's just like superficial. Like imagine a person that has just like really good dental hygiene their entire life and they have nice teeth as a result of doing good work versus someone who like goes to the dentist and gets a teeth whitening one time but like still maintains the bad habits. It's kind of like, you know, Ozempic versus dieting. It's like all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of like the idea of what this book is about in regards to beauty and things. And I see we've been rejoined by Zenith. So I've just kind of been going through the summer here, broski. I haven't even gotten to the chapter by chapter, so we'll get into that now. So the chapters are as follows, right? So chapter 1 is all about the way of beauty, and there's a whole bunch of chapters where there's multiple parts, and I'll just kind of combine those into one. But chapter 1 is the way of beauty, and it talks about beauty as being an orientation towards life, not about aesthetics or technique. Chapter 2 is about the way of seduction, seduction as presence, as emotional attunement, and as polarity, not as manipulation. So like kind of like working with someone rather than like trying to force your stuff onto someone else's life. Chapter 3 is the way of discovery, and this is about self-knowledge through curiosity, risk, and lived experience. Oh, and by the way, I also got a little percentage breakdown for each of the chapters and how much of like the book they are. So like chapter 1, The Way of Beauty, it's only about 4% of the book. Chapter 2 is just under 10%. Chapter 3 is about 5%. Then chapter 4, which is The Way of the Natural, and there's 3 parts inside there. This is like the core thesis of the book. It's about reclaiming instinct, spontaneity, or spontaneity, grounded masculinity, and unforced behavior. This part of the book is about 25% of the entire book. So this is like the real meat and potatoes. And then chapter 5, same thing. It's about 20%. It's called The Way of Men, and it's about like masculine responsibility, about leadership, order, and self-governance. Chapter 6 goes into the feminine. It's the way of women. That's about 10% of the book. It's about understanding feminine nature without resentment, without pedestalization, or without control. So it's not about hating women. It's not about simping for women, and it's not about trying to like encage women inside of your little definition. It's about like understanding what's out there without trying to manipulate it or get into some sort of trouble or anything like that. Chapter 8 is the way of salvation. There's 2 parts to it. This is about 15% of the book. It's about integration of desire, masculinity, love, and meaning unified into a coherent life path. And then chapter 9 is the way of beauty, which is the poetic close to the book. And it's about beauty revisited after transformation. So it also, Zenith, I don't know if you remember it, towards the end of the book, he talks about like his current girlfriend goes and gets like a whole bunch of his past girlfriends with all their boyfriends, and they have like a lingerie party. It's like for part of his birthday. And I was like, whoa. I don't know if spoiler alert for you guys reading the book. It's like it's super interesting and funny, but it's like a very like non-sexual lingerie party, all about appreciation. That part was a little bit weird and funky for me. Certainly would not have.
To preface it, this book is very artsy in the way that he uses words. It's more of like really trying to put a spin and go to like a different route than the common definition of whatever these words are, specifically beauty and stuff. So you get some odd stuff like that. That one at the end was definitely out of left field, my personal opinion. But at the same time, this is a book that needs a preface before talking about it to someone that did not read it, because it's going to sound kind of crazy. But that's partly just because that's a lot of the concepts in this book are not the way that we think in today's day and age, honestly.
By the way, your mic sounds fantastic. You fixed whatever the problem was. So
you go, just turn it off and on.
Yeah, turn it off, turn it on again. The old India tech support. That's fucking awesome. But before we start launching into the questions and anything, was there a part of the book that you particularly liked or hated? Do you have like do you have an emotional high or low that happened as a result of reading this book, or was there something that you found interesting? Uh, anything of that nature?
It wasn't like any specific moment or anything, but just the way that the author talks about things. It's similar in a way to like how when we covered Sci-Vive and some of those other like very amoral books, it was like this author is writing from a very specific perspective, trying to not be weighed down by trying to like appeal to other people's like notions of things or anything. It very much again is kind of like that love letter to writing about beauty in the past, and he even talks about it about like how back in starting around like year 1000 or something, like people really started to like profess like love and what is beauty in like poems and songs and writing and stuff like that. So it was kind of refreshing, also interesting just to like read this book or listen to it rather through that kind of frame, where we've been covering a lot of like pretty like heavy books when it comes to either like philosophical and political thought or like business stuff, where it's very just like matter of fact, almost like numbers, math kind of stuff. This is the exact opposite of that. This is really trying to go for like artistic expression, and not in like the dumb way of like, oh, I'm doing performative art of pouring paint on a canvas. It's like, no, that's modern abstract weirdness. This is classical artistic expression of like really trying to like use like sophistry and poetry and stuff like that. So
I would go so far as to say it's almost timeless, you know, where like pouring paint on ladybugs is definitely a product of the time. And not actually art, but like art that's timeless.
To the wall.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you can make fucking $7 million doing bananas glued to the wall, then you know.
I will say that's an excellent business venture, possibly a tax shelter for somebody.
I think,
but I'm going to say it is categorically different. This is timeless. It is classical. I like that. At the same time, though, like, gotta understand, I don't think this book is a dating manual. I don't think this book is something that you can really construct a worldview out of. In fact, it was odd because the guy specifically multiple times is like, I'm not a guru or anything, but like the way he talks about things and the way that he lived his life in particular, it's like, dude, you're straight up a yogi guru, kind of like slightly out there kind of dude. And that's fine. And you're exploring it and you're like describing it like very nicely and like beautifully. But at the same time, it's like, hear me out. Maybe don't try this in your real life.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think that it's kind of the book is almost, and he mentioned it at one part in there that he wrote it for himself. He didn't write it for other people.
He
wrote it for him.
There you go.
And I think that that's a pretty accurate way to look at it. I would not say that this is like, hey, here's a great lesson that you need to do. But it's like hey, here's an uncommon way of thinking about things that you probably haven't, you know, consumed before. And like I think that it's important for people to undergo ontological shock and to consume things that are not normally within their, you know, daily dietary supplements. And for that reason, I think that this book is a great one to read, is because it like it gets people thinking, and also it's beautiful. It's a poetic book, and like, you know, you don't have to employ the techniques that he employs. I certainly am not going to be doing many of them, but like there's a lot of great stuff in there, and there's a lot of like, hey, I did this is what happened, and you know, do with that information what you will. It's kind of like the first guys that were trying to invent airplanes in all their own different ways, and you know, a bunch of them worked and a bunch of them failed catastrophically, but like the guys that document what they're doing and describe how it works and can really like pass that on to other people in a way that's pretty, in a way that's like interesting to read, I think that it's a fantastic skill. So
yeah, I know we both just got done saying that we would never try to implement this book in our lives, but I still want to give the book praise because I think it does something new and interesting and honestly good, not from the moral sense, but from like a really like optimistic or hopeful or pure sense, because the way that the author portrays beauty and love, it's always as very hopeful, very positive, very upbeat. Like even early on in the book, I think he's talking about like he's a night out and he's like talking to a group of girls and like trying to, with the way he talks about seduction, it's not like, ooh, hey baby, you want to come back to my bed? It's no like, it is the idea of seduction for him is more of like it's honestly closer to like the way that you and I talk like on the show. It's like just being in the moment, like allowing people to explore and just like really being connected and seeing like the other person as a person, that kind of stuff. But to the story anyways, he's at the bar with like the group of girls, and then like a buddy or something comes up to him. He's like, "What are you doing, man? Why are you talking to this fat chick?" And then he talks about, he's like, "Look, I knew she was fat. She knew she was fat. All the girls in her group know she's fat. But at the same time, that doesn't take away from her beauty as a person in this moment of all of us together, like having genuine connection." So I guess it's a bit of a spoiler for how the guy defines beauty, but it's really in that it's just the bare connection between people, and the way that the author uses stuff like that a lot, which is like, look, do we have flaws? Yeah, for sure. Do I care about that? Not at all. We're just doing whatever we're doing right here, and it's good. I'm feeling you, you're feeling me. We're exploring. It's honest, it's bare, it's open, and this might honestly just be a little bit of like maybe 2026 us talking, which is like, we are in the digital age where even in the book he talks about it, it's like we've distilled ourselves down to dating apps and social media and like porn, and he's like, all that sucks. The best stuff is going and talking to people in real life and having that moment, looking someone in the eye and that kind of stuff. So it's a good book from the sense that like this is trying to see the best in humanity from his view. The way that he does things, I would argue, maybe not be the greatest, but from his view, he's always like trying to seek out the best in people and seek out the best connections. So that's why I wanted to give it a little more point of praise there.
Yeah, I think that's something that everyone can take out of this book. If they take nothing else, it's just like to look for the positive, wonderful things in human beings, man, woman, yourself, others. Just approach things with good, positive energy, and you'll get awesome results. And that's basically like he says it several times in fact, he tells one story about like one of his girls was like looking at her phone in the morning and scowling, and he was like, "Hey sugar, come over here and give me a kiss." And then she was like, "Wah," and he was like, "Hey, come give me a kiss." He asks her twice, and then she's like, and she just kind of like continues like texting and frowning, and then he's like, "Hey, stop what you're doing, look at me right now," and he's like switches tones into like dad mode. He's like, "I'm not gonna have you spoil my morning by having a bad mood, so come over here and give me a kiss." And she's like, "Okay, whatever," that's a story, right? It's, who knows if it's real or not, and I don't know if that shit would work, but like it is very important to not let other people like bring negativity into your life, and to look for the positive in everything. So like that, if nothing else, if nothing else is gained from this book, I think that looking for beauty and finding positivity and finding wonderful stuff, I think is just a really great spin. Do you have anything that that you will take from this book and be like, you know what, this is a good thing. It might even be something you already know, but something you were reminded of.
I think just honestly, kind of like what I talked about previously, like the appreciation for human connection. I know we've been focusing up on a lot of stuff, whether it's legal and government analysis over here or the crypto markets and all that kind of stuff, but just kind of like taking a step back and like appreciating art for art and beauty for beauty. It's something that is definitely lost today. And then when you listen to this book or read it, it's like, oh yeah, there's good stuff out there. Life isn't that bad after all, right? It's like, all right, sweet.
A nice little positive stack of pancakes to add to the gloomy meal that is life.
A little bit.
Excellent. Okay, well, time to launch into the questions then. So let's see. Have we already? Oh man. So the way of beauty. We've already covered, what does Perrion mean by beauty as a way of being rather than appearance. I kind of answered this on my own, but I would like to toss that question over to you. What does he mean by beauty as a way of being rather than just simply appearance?
The way that I think the author would describe it is that it's very much based out of a masculine frame. And the guy pulls no punches on that one. He's like, look, I'm a dude. I like women because they're women. These are all the things that I like about them. And that's pretty much the basis for this entire book. He does have some critiques on things that he finds not beautiful, whether it's like overly aggressive dudes or women that are not in their feminine realistically. That's pretty much like the only 2 points I think that he has where he explicitly comes out and says like, these things are not beautiful, because it's pulling people out of what they're supposed to be. So from his perspective, beauty is it's being honest, open, not transparent, but at least like not like you see through them, but you're able to connect with a person without any like lies and deception and that kind of stuff. And it's very raw and real connection. And then when people do that, that's one of the things that he describes as beauty, which is it is the essence of your being coming out on full display. And like even I think he had a reporter that was doing a piece on him or something for a column. And he's like, tell you what, why don't we go on like a fake date or something? And she's like, all right, sure, whatever. And then within like the first like minute of them meeting and stuff, he's like, tell me something that you've never told anyone before. And she's like, all right, sure. And then she's like, wow, feels interesting getting that off my chest. Like no one's ever known that about me. And it's kind of like that stuff, which he really describes as beauty. I mean, he does also talk about beauty in the sense of like love from relationships where it's both the emotional connection and also a lot of physical connection, because the guy does not shy away from that at all, which is one of the core pillars of the book that he talks about, is that it's really the two things. It's being connected emotionally, and then it's also the physical connection of like, you know, doing the love making. So it's personal and sexual. It's both together for him. And all of it is wrapped up in this conception of beauty that he has.
That's a good explanation. And I will say that one fun little Easter egg there for the folks at home that didn't read it is after about 2 hours of the date going on, the journalist realizes that she never asked him a single question because he's been, you know, getting her to talk about herself, and they've been having fun the entire time. So she ends up not necessarily failing in her journalistic endeavors, but she realizes that like it the things that he was bringing up were important and fun for the both of them. So
yeah.
Do you think that do you think that his like his beauty is being a way of being rather than appearance like totally clashes with social media and like the optimization culture that we live in nowadays, where it's like, oh, be fast, be great at this, do this thing, do that thing, maximize this, you know, is it like a head on?
I think it's not quite head on. There are ways in which they work together, but there's probably more ways in which they don't. Because I think that even as people in today's day and age with like social media and TikTok and the clips and the shortening attention span and stuff, like people are captured by genuine beauty, whether it's human connection, moments in nature, things that are aesthetically like visually appealing, that kind of stuff. I think those kind of moments still do capture people, and we have those happen to us. But there's also just a lot of just noise in between those moments. Whereas like the guy in the book, he's going for like those moments 100% of his life.
Mm-hmm. I think like beauty versus maybe it was attraction was the word that he used. Maybe
those
arousal.
are two different. He describes them as two different things.
Yeah.
And later on in the book, he's talking to a guy who's like, oh, I can't date all these girls. I've dated a few girls, had some like one night stands and stuff, and then the one that got away, I just like can't like find a girlfriend or a partner or a relationship. And then the whole time the guy's like talking to him, the author is at the table and he's like visually like flirting with two girls in the back, and then they come over and are hanging out and stuff. And then like he goes to the bathroom. When he comes back, the guy he was talking to is like at the table on his phone, not looking at the girls. And then the author comes back and like regroups everybody, and it's like that kind of stuff right there, like that. It's like you are not seeing this for what it is. And the guy's like, yeah, but I'm not attracted to them. And then the author's like, yeah, neither am I. I'm just trying to enjoy this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So for him, it's the idea of like appreciating beauty and then having attraction as something that you have and you want and desire and stuff. They're separate. It goes back to kind of the thesis of the book, which is like he loves all women because they're women and he finds them wonderful because of that. It doesn't mean that he's trying to sleep with all of them. It just means that he appreciates beauty. And that's one of the kind of the defining points of the book as well. It's loves women, is appreciating all women. Does it mean he's trying to sleep with all of them? No. Is he out there trying to have these moments of connection and stuff? Definitely yes. But at the same time, he's not out there just trying to like rack up bodies or something or try to sleep with as many women as possible. He explicitly kind of like rejects that. And he's like, nope, I'm looking for quality, like human connection and exploring that kind of stuff. So for him, that's the difference between his like artistic definition of beauty versus what is attraction and drives that half of the equation.
That kind of takes us into the second chapter, where he talks about like seduction, and the question, the premise is that seduction doesn't work unless you have this like appreciation of beauty, unless you have this like this presence. And so the idea is like, or well, the question rather that I would pose to you is seduction inherently manipulative, or does intent matter?
Before we answer that, we have to get into another kind of like answer before that, which is, what does the author say is seduction?
Yeah.
So the author has his definition of seduction, but then the author also recognizes like the common definition of seduction, which is like trying to get someone in bed with you.
Yep.
Seduction for the author is very much not, it doesn't have to be sexual. He says that it's kind of like a prerequisite towards the sexual things, but really it is just, it's the conversational stuff. It's the back and forth. It's the opening. It's the twinkle in your eye, the staring at the person as they tell you stuff they've never told anyone before. It's that kind of stuff. But the author does explicitly, now answer your question, the author does explicitly say that modern version of seduction, as many people understand it, they do believe that it does come with some degree of manipulation, from kind of like the common perspective of like seduction is not a thing that happens. Seduction is a thing that someone actually tries to do, versus the author's definition of seduction would be something that happens naturally if it's working, or even if you're just able to see a person. So that's it. It's a split for sure.
Yeah. Like when the people are vibing and having a good time, you know, it's very it's very natural, as opposed to like, oh hey, let me walk you down this path that I've carved, that I've like practiced 50 times, so I'm like basically reading you a script, rather than like interacting with you as a human being, like picking up on your body language and like doing, you know, the positive human interaction stuff, the calibration, getting corrected, or picking up on the need to correct yourself, and then the recalibration, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's like,
definitely. And I mean, to use terms that we've used before, when the author talks about like pickup artistry in that version of seduction, it's very much tactics and techniques. It is, I do A to elicit B response. If I don't get B response, move to C response.
It's very
that
clinical.
That kind of stuff. It's it's more, his version is more flow. His view of pickup and seduction is very much tactics.
Why do you think the tactics fail without the like the positive presence that he talks about? Because like I would argue that they often do.
That is there's a lot of possible answers for that one, but there's no single answer. It's kind of all encompassing, and the author even talks about that a bit later on, which is like, as a dude, you got to have your own stuff going on. You got to understand what the other people are looking for, and if you're not that, then they're not going to be interested in anyways. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. I kind of personally see it as peacocking almost. Like, you know, there's a lot of truth of fake it till you make it. But if you're faking it, then you haven't made it, you know? So you have to fake it until it's no longer fake, or you have to do or become the thing. And that's when it all starts working out. It's like, you know, you don't hop on the basketball court as a professional basketball player, but you have to still throw the ball at the hoop, just like all the professionals do, in order to learn how to make the shots and refine it, and then you know, do it. So like, the tactics will fail. Like, you go out onto the basketball court and you adopt the same stance. You know, you put your left foot forward a little bit, your right foot back. You do a little like scoot jump, and then you make sure you swish the ball perfectly. You know, you follow all these little doctrines, all these little tactics. But if you don't have the amalgamation of the identity, the presence, then like all of the individual things won't add up for anything. And that's at least what I would presume to be the thought behind that.
Yeah, so. I think that possibly one delineation you could draw with what you're talking about, what the author goes for, is the author is advocating for not faking it till you make it. The author is actually advocating just being that guy.
Yeah.
Like, even talks about like, sometimes maybe the answer is you got to go on a journey, bro, and you got to make it tough, so that once you come back, you are a changed person and you're thinking about all these different things, as opposed to try to be something that you're not, which is more of like the tactics kind of stuff that you're talking about. Because the tactics stuff is very much like trying to do specific things to elicit specific reactions, versus what the author is talking about is like, you're just doing you. And because it's you don't have to think about it. It just comes naturally. You have thought about it before, but that's when you were building yourself into the person that you are now. So now that you are that person, you just go with your flow that you've built. It's not it's less fake it till you make it. It's more of become the thing that you want to be. And then again, it's trying to be the thing that the author is describing, which is very specific, but
that's a much better way to put it than the way that I did. I like that. I like that that spin you got there. You think he's just being romantically vague instead of giving practical advice? That's the devil's advocate question.
The answer is both. So there are a few practical things in the book that the author talks about. At the same time, though, any of the advice in the book comes with a massive grain of salt, because I think it kind of goes back to the idea of, are you just trying to replicate this thing because you think the replication will create you success? But if you try to do that, you're probably going to discover a lot of the other factors that go into it. But in this case, if you try to replicate what the author does and how he lives his life, you're going to learn a lot more about the author than you are yourself. You're going to learn about all the different things that led him to this point and why he thinks the way he does and that kind of stuff before getting to there. So if you try, again, it's why we started when we were talking about this book. It's like, are we going to try this stuff? The answer is no. Guess why? Because we're not the author. He leads a very different life. The life that he lives is very, I don't want to say flimsy.
Whimsical.
I don't know if it's whimsical, because the guy, he takes himself in life lightly, but he's kind of a drifter, which is that everything is come and go. Everything is temporary, and he appreciates things for as long as they are, and he's never tied down, and is just like going through life experiencing these things. It's that kind of stuff. So like, if you're trying to build towards something, I would argue that your life is actually fundamentally different than this guy's. Obviously, he does have a career, which is being an author and a writer, and that's like how he, makes money so he can do all this stuff. But at the same time, the way that he views the world and what to do inside of the world is very different from what I would argue you and I think about, or any of the people that we've talked to that like watch the show and stuff. It's a very different lifestyle structure, which is, I would argue, all like us and our audience, we are trying to build things versus he's just trying to experience things.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. I will say that outside of the book, he does run a men's group called the Ars Amorata, which is it's a really cool a really cool place for gentlemen. It's basically like a men's group where they get together and they talk about this stuff. And there's 50 episodes on the Ars Amorata YouTube channel where Zan Perrion talks about the making of the Alabaster Girl with like a circle of gentlemen, and it's very well produced and stuff. So
I'm actually surprised to hear you say that, because the author explicitly talks about, I don't like hanging out with dudes.
Oh, that's the character in the book, man. It's not necessarily Zan Perrion. And he speaks about not liking to hang out with dudes as an exclusivity. Like if he had his preferences, he'd be hanging out with women. Like when they were like, oh, we're gonna go in the woods and like, chop down trees and grow beards and whatnot. And he was like, well, where's all the women at, man? Come on, I love the women, But yeah, he does run a men's group. That is a very, and this is Zan Perrion in real life, not the character that is speaking inside of the book. So
is the book written from a fictional perspective, or is this like his actual stories?
I think it's pseudo fictional, and I really don't know. Okay. I haven't listened to enough of his podcast where he talks about the book, but
I mean, I'll be honest. If you had told me that this entire book was just fiction, I'd believe you. Like it is. I mean,
yeah, it could be. I don't know is the thing. Like I've got no clue. I think it's probably a little bit of everything,
Okay.
Like half fiction, half truth. That's my personal thoughts, and I have nothing backing that up. But I would have to dig deeper to find out if it's fictional or if it's anecdotal personal experience. I think he was trying to impart more of like beauties and ideas and things than like talk about his own life and stuff.
Yeah, when I was going through the book,
it does sound like a personal journey, though, like very much so.
I guess, yeah. He even explicitly says in the book, like, I used to be this guy. I used to do this stuff. I hate that I used to be that way. I didn't know anything. I learned. Now I'm this one. Thank you, Sam. Sam says the Alabaster Girl is a fictional story.
I will say one of the clues that it's a fictional-ish story is like he talks about growing up in the wilderness of Canada as like part of a Native American tribe where like a bunch of white people came and like beat up his mom and like
why do I not remember this part?
Oh, it was pretty vivid for me. I read it 2 or 3 times, but like there's a part of the book where he talks about like I think it's like chapter it's in the Way of Men chapter, but like it was like, whoa, this is dark.
If that's the case, then this kind of makes a lot of sense, which is like part of why we watch narrative like fiction movies that are not real, like Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that, or even like high fantasy and stuff like that, is that you have the suspension of disbelief. And even inside of those things, there are times when the show gets too out over its skis where you lose that suspension of disbelief. It's the willingness to just like kind of go along with it and go along with the story for the sake of like just trying to experience what they're trying to tell you. But then sometimes when they're like, yeah, Ray's never picked up a lightsaber, but she's able to beat this guy that had trained with a lightsaber for his entire life. That's where you get to the point where it's like, yep, that suspension of disbelief turns off. You're like, all right, now I'm going to start critiquing this. Yeah, this book, I would argue, stays in the suspension of disbelief, which is nice. There are moments where it gets close to that edge, particularly the lingerie party.
Hey,
but
yeah, that was weird.
That's the best way I can describe it. And if I wanted to be harsher, I'd call it some very culty mentality. It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't know what kind of like ex-girlfriends would bring their current boyfriends to like an old lover's birthday and it's like, hey, we're all gonna wear sexy lingerie because he would like it, and then the boyfriends will just be okay with it. It's like, what? Don't know about that.
I only know of one type of lingerie party, and it's where a bunch of horny teenagers dressed up and wore lingerie and did drugs because they wanted to bang. That is not what this is, and that's where it's like, this is really pushing it, man.
You go to some of the more fun parts of maybe Sin City or Atlanta or New York, and you can find all sorts of, or Amsterdam. You can find all sorts of crazy things. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about seduction, and is it romanticized vagueness instead of practical advice? Kind of. That would be my answer to the question. What do you think?
I think it's the opposite of romantic vagueness. It's more of like it's in the way the author describes it is that it's intentional. It is that you are intentionally trying to be there in a moment with a person, and that is the seduction. The seduction is, it's not strategy, it's not coercion, it's just like moving with the other person and seeing how it flows and that kind of stuff, and just appreciating it for what it is. I mean, you could argue that even part of seduction that he talks about is later on in the book. He's at a bar, and then he's just like next to this like girl, and he just like starts talking to her. She's like, I have a boyfriend. And he does like all the like, yeah, cool. Well, someone can occupy your time when I'm not here kind of stuff. And then he's like, I'm not interested in you, showing up like all these red flags. And he's like, you're still talking to me. If you really didn't like me, you could walk away at any time. And then the dude sees another girl walk into the bar. I think he's talking like the girl at the bar was a blonde, but he likes brunettes. The girl that walks in is a brunette. And then he literally looks at the girl in the bar. He's like, hold on one sec, excuse me. And then he goes over, talks to the brunette, and does like the opening. Is like, oh, hey, like, oh, we're both here at the same time. Crazy stuff. Would love to like get to know you and talk and stuff. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm actually looking for somebody. I gotta go catch a flight. And he's like, hey, no worries, sounds good. And then he goes back to the bar with the blonde, and then she immediately starts talking to him again. And he's like, why would you do that in front of me? He's like, you already said you didn't want this, but you're still talking to me. It's like,
yeah,
is that kind of interaction seduction, or is that just like normal?
I think
like
that was kind of an not seduction. That's just kind of like, this is sort of what happens, I think it was to tell the story of like, this is kind of sort of female nature, like you have to be ready for them to say one thing and do another, and then you sort of kind of listen to it, but you don't, and then you come back and then they get all indignant, and then you just kind of like toy with them, play cat and mouse. That's how I interpreted that particular story anyways,
I guess. But I think even rolling with how you see that one, I would still argue that the author still categorizes that interaction into the seduction, which is like having the experience with a person that will eventually possibly lead you on to something else.
Mm-hmm. That would be a He's basically like the character in the story is just a guy who generally doesn't give a fuck and just kind of does what he wants to do because he's happy. That's how
Yeah,
I sort of kind of see it. Consequences be damned.
That really is the essence of the book and how the guy lives his life in the book, which is like he just does what he wants and then he appreciates things in the moment and just rolls with it. But then at the same time, he's not trying to force anything.
Yeah, and that leads us into the third chapter where we're gonna talk about. Excuse me, someone is calling me. Gotta mute that. The third chapter is the way of discovery, which is about self knowledge through curiosity, risk, and lived experience. And the premise is that self discovery is generally pretty uncomfortable. Do you think that uh, it ought to be uncomfortable? Do you think that like when people are trying to figure out who they are, should they be in should they do it bold? Should they do it like milk toast one step at a time? What are your thoughts on entering into self-discovery?
I think the author would definitely describe it as bold. And a lot of the other books that we've talked about and read as well are definitely in that bold category. They're different flavors of it for sure, which is like I think this guy is like you gotta discover and learn things about yourself, what you like and what you don't like, versus the other type of bold, which I'm talking about, which is like stare yourself in the face and look at you and be like, am I a fat piece of lard? Is the answer yes? Cool, hit the gym. Very, very different flavors there.
Yeah. What do you think? Should it be crazy uncomfortable? Should people enter into it like one timid little step at a time? Should they do the crazy like stare at themselves in the mirror fat? Should they do the other one that you had mentioned, because I totally forgot because that one was really good?
Discovering what you like and what you don't like and just going for it. No.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I think that the answer leans towards bold, but it's not crank it to 11. Because I think if you try to go too far too quick, you might get gun shy, that kind of thing. But at the same time, the whole point is to be bold. The whole point is to learn something new, to push a boundary, not jump off the cliff, but like, lean over, see what it looks like down there. Does that make you feel scared? You don't like heights? All right, cool. Get used to it. There's a lot of cool stuff on this edge. You might want to live there more.
It's better to be bold then. I would agree. That's my philosophy. And I think that like men who are bold are the ones that are awarded, both by men and by women. If you're a man and you are not bold and you just kind of like do the safe things all the time, then you will find that like people will probably rely on you, but they're not gonna come to you in a pinch. They're not gonna like consider you above the rest. And I think that's just kind of like a function of existing in the middle of the bell curve versus existing on the far side of the bell curve where like hardly anyone is.
That's fair. Although I think that you and I are talking about this from a much more holistic, like life purview, as opposed to the author, who I think is very focused on like the love and beauty kind of aspect. But I mean, the question for you is, Will, do you know what the British SAS motto is?
Oh, fuck.
It's 3 words.
Damn it. I just watched the show with like Patty Main in the making of the SAS 2. It was a great show.
Who dares wins.
That's right. Who dares wins. Yes.
So if you would like to win, might want to be a little bold.
Yep. And a lot of people died. And a lot of people will continue to die. And a lot of people will win the Darwin Award. And a lot of people will fall flat on their face. But like, as long as you can pick yourself back up, then you become that's how you exit the middle of the bell curve, is by falling flat on your face and picking yourself up and doing it again. And
you finally get influenced by the Instagram reels that you see talking about how retard maxing has really helped your life, because you're just simpling and honing down on things. And you said, no, not high end of the bell curve, low end of the bell curve. That's the answer.
Getting out of the middle of the bell curve is the way. And like, this is one of the things Richard talks about in Sci-Vibe, is like that we don't need more like smart people deliberating and thinking and learning. We need more idiots or just regular people that just do it. Slap that Nike check right on there and just fucking do it. Go see Shia LaBeouf and just do it. And like that's what the world needs. It needs more men that just do it. It needs more more of this gumption, more of this like bold self-discovery. And like, you know, if it's not you, then it's not you. If you want to be that guy, then become that guy. And the way that you become that guy is you just start doing stuff.
Start doing
I think
stuff.
I think that a lot of people outsource it. A lot of people outsource the like that inner desire for conquering and building and doing other things with like you can outsource it with video games. You can outsource it with like puzzles, with like scrolling on the phone, watching YouTube videos, like, wow, look at this guy build this really cool, car straight from scratch. It's like I'm watching it, therefore like I get to have this lived experience of doing it and pretend that it's me, right? Or you playing the video games. It's like I'm going on the adventure, hooray! And it's like it's ones and zeros moving across a computing chip somewhere and reflecting on a screen, and you get to like sort of live vicariously as the character. But at the end of the day, like you're still the same person. Like you've done some thinking, maybe your problem solving is a little bit better, but like you don't get that real world increase in value of like the world around you becoming a better place as a result of you know doing something crazy, hopping on that raft and cruising down the Mississippi River, going in and jumping out of the plane. I don't fucking know. There's probably plenty of great examples that I'm not thinking of, but
I mean,
anyways.
I'll be honest. When was the last time Red Bull did an advertisement that actually included an energy drink?
Yeah, never. They sell
just doing stuff.
Adventure and masculinity. And I think that's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up because Red Bull's fucking awesome. And like the last thing they care about is sugar and B12 and L-arginine or whatever the fuck it is that's inside their drinks,
They're not trying to tell you that they have the best tasting or the most energy in the energy drink. They're like, no, this is the energy drink of people that like doing stuff. How's that make you feel?
Yes. Yep. Bud Light doesn't sell you on the idea of getting drunk. Bud Light sells you on naked girls in a hot tub, or like a draft horse pulling a sleigh through the snow. Like it's all about the experience. And if you can tie the experience to the product, now we're starting to go into the sales world instead of down the.
Well, I mean,
the other world.
I'll just say Bud Light even does the doing stuff too. They've had some pretty good UFC advertisements lately. I think one of them was like, yeah, we went to the bar, we ordered Bud Light, and then Dustin Poirier showed up and we hung out with Dustin and we got to go to the UFC fight. I was like, come on, that's pretty cool.
You drink Bud Light, you might meet UFC fighters. There you go.
Speaking of which, first UFC numbered event happening this weekend. Haven't had one in 6 weeks, but it's going to be good.
Well. Excellent. I hope that good guy wins and bad guy loses. Man, I hate bad guy. I hope he goes down.
You just want to cheer for baddest guy, which is Derek Lewis. Big heavyweight dude. All he does is get in there in one round. Somebody's going down. Hopefully not him. And then he takes his pants off, does an interview with Joe Rogan, and then throws cock chops to the crowd and waves his pants around the air. Yeah, there you go. Derek Lewis. Good dude. One of the most entertaining fighters, hands down. Anyways,
that's awesome.
Sorry, tangent. I know it's over.
Oh, you're good. That's actually the perfect transition into chapter 4, the way of the natural. The cock
Eric Lewis is natural at that. Let me tell you.
It's all about the cop chop, which is the core of the way of the natural is. It's about reclaiming instinct, spontaneity, grounded masculinity, and unforced behavior. So the question is, what does natural even mean in a hyper-engineered world? I don't know if I like that question. Why does forcing behavior destroy polarity? You want to tackle that one? Why does forcing behavior destroy polarity? I don't know if I agree with the premise of that question, as a matter of fact.
There's a handful of ways you could take that question.
Yeah.
One of the things that the author talks about in the book is the modern way of being, especially after the sexual revolution, which is that everyone is kind of trying to force their way into like the corporate wagey role and doing all that stuff. Whether you're a dude giving up the experience of the wild to brave Microsoft Excel, or if you're a woman giving up on your maternal instincts to get into the office and brave Microsoft Excel, or you're a Taliban warfighter and you had a glorious war for 20 years and now you're having to brave Microsoft Excel and it makes you depressed. Real story, by the way.
We're going to be data analysts. That's great.
No, we're not data analysts. We're just people talking about the horrors of sitting in a cubicle and doing spreadsheets. even though I come home and do spreadsheets for fun. But I do weird stuff like sync Bitcoin prices to the sun and moon cycle and see if you can make money on that, but slightly different.
That's not a bad one. That's not a bad one.
The
moon cycle theory.
To get back to the point, the way that the author talks about polarity is that his definition of the natural is it's not the way that you're born. It is kind of just being unburdened so you can be what you're supposed to be. Again,
unburdened
it's a little
by
like,
what has been.
Yeah, don't unburdened by the way and consequence of becoming the president of the United States. What a burden! What a burden indeed. But it's the idea that the author genuinely does believe in the polarity of men and women, which is that he even talks about it, which is that like at peak performance, theoretically, in his view, is that men and women are complementary, which is that you always work best together. And that there's a beautiful tension and harmony that comes with the two. And the polarity that we see really disturbs that because it kind of forces you to do things that what the author believes is that you're not naturally to do, which is like have those genuine connections and do that kind of stuff.
Okay. So that's a good interpretation. I saw it as like forcing one's own behavior to be the thing, as opposed to like I'm gonna like forcing oneself to fit in the box, and you interpret it as like when people try and force themselves to be like outside of the box sort of thing. So it's like when a woman forces herself to be masculine, when a man forces himself to be feminine. Is that's kind of where you're going with this? Or like when people go outside of like the thing that works, you know?
Well, I took polarity from the author definitely talks about women are beautiful, men are the things that pursue the beautiful, so they're separate. Versus in kind of corporate Microsoft Excel age, it's nope, you are a factory worker, you all go into the same box.
Oh,
I was approaching polarity as like positive and negative as opposed to like and then everyone's trying to be neutral. It's like no, be the positive, be the negative. You can still do your other stuff, but at the same time, there's beauty with it, this balance that comes when you have both those things.
That's a good interpretation as well. And I would be inclined to agree that like it's great to have a yin for the yang. Like what looks better, the yin yang or a circle of gray mush, you know? It's like definitely the yin yang.
It's just a bad ripoff of a Nike logo that you see on the Chinese brand on Temu.
Yes. The Nike yin yang ripped off Nike, the Taoism or Taoism, whatever it is.
Whatever.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Ooh. Here's a fun question. Does this mirror markets that break when overly manipulated outside of their polarity? Or how does this mirror markets that break when overly manipulated? So like the market naturally wants to do what it wants to do, but when we try and force the market to do something.
I think this is a bit of a stretch to compare beauty in male-female dynamics to markets. But if you want to try to go for it, you could say that when markets are not allowed to move as they naturally do, then you get to these exaggerated moments where nothing makes sense. And then you have huge highs when there should be no high. Then you have huge crashes when it shouldn't be crashing as much and that kind of stuff. So to take it to its logical conclusion, it's being like, yes, there's a beauty when those bank runs happen. It's like, oh no, no money. I guess it's time to correct. And by that, it means people lose money. And then people have opportunities to make banks that say that they're doing it better. They may or they may not be, but who knows?
Yep. When the government prints the money to bail out the banks that cause the problem, and the banks get more money and they don't get like punished, and then the people, you know, like do get punished as like, you know, second and third order effect, not like as a primary action, but whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think the author really considers finance at all.
No, this question is a result of, I think, ChatGPT knowing that I do a financial podcast and just kind of like squeezing it in there, you know, like
the notes like of your former prompts are sneaking away into your romance book.
It's learning, man. ChatGPT is learning, so I have to like, I wonder if I can like wipe the slate, be like, okay, forget all about me, forget everything, you know, time to start new or whatever. But like, oh man, if I've broken the AI, is it writing too much copywriting for me? Too much AIDA format. But like I think I would be inclined to your interpretation. That's what I saw when I read this question, is like, you know, markets break when they're overly manipulated, just like human relationships break when they're overly manipulated. When you don't work to your strengths and like focus on the things that you know had ought to be happening, then you either break the system or you break yourself trying to break the system. And it's like, think about all the people that tried dumping boatloads of money into a market to try and get it to do something. And then as soon as it was, found out that the market didn't want to do the thing, it's like, oh, damn, all that money's gone. Adios. There goes my big experiment of trying to force something that wasn't ready to happen. So, like, you either break the system by overpowering it, or you find out that you break yourself because it's like you're not strong enough to break the system. Forcing waves on the beach. And with that, he transitioned seamlessly into chapter 5, The Way of Men.
Hey,
what do you think? So it asks me the question of what responsibilities define manhood in Zen Perrion's view, but I want to ask you, Zenith, what do you think the book describes masculinity or manhood, or no, excuse me, the responsibilities of masculinity and manhood?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think the book really talks about responsibilities that much.
Really?
A lot of what, yeah, I mean, other than like be a man so the ladies can be ladies, that kind of stuff.
I would sort of disagree, but continue your thought and then I'll butt in.
The thing that I found that the author put the most emphasis on for masculinity was freedom and daring. It is the freedom to go do the thing, go do the journey, not be tied down by stuff, and then go do the hard things because you want to experience the hard things because it'll make you better in that way. But as far as like responsibilities, it's for me, the question is, what do you have a responsibility to? Who is the responsibility to? The responsibilities that the guy talks about is like, go for a walk, get in shape, don't be fat, don't smell bad, that kind of stuff. But that all is very much in the lens of like, you have a responsibility to be a clean cut, good looking dude so that women can enjoy you and not be repulsed by you. That's kind of the way that I saw it. I think that the thing that I got out of this chapter the most, honestly, was that the author is talking about this was very much one of the chapters that was a critique of the modern era, which is that men don't really have like rites of passage anymore.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to kind of like understand the delineation between boy and man and that kind of stuff. The author does talk specifically about talking to women about, oh, you're dating a boy, you're dating a perpetual teenager kind of thing versus you're with me because I'm a man. And it's like, okay, I understand that sentiment, but at the same time, I don't see how you've demonstrated the difference there. It is more of that the boy is chasing you for sex versus you're chasing her for her, which includes sex.
No, she is chasing him for approval. That's sort of kind of how he wrote it, as best I understood.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
The way that I personally view responsibility is that you have moral and civic responsibility. One can come from a religious standpoint or natural law, if you will, if you go that route. The other one comes from also natural law, but taken towards the societal standpoint, which is that like listening to some of the old philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, which is that like you have a duty to your nation as a citizen of the nation. It's not that you have to give the nation whatever it wants, but it's like you have a duty of like, you are from this place, you owe it to yourself, your people, and your lineage to make this place better. And then from the morality standpoint, it's if you are religious, it's like your morality comes from God and whatever that system entails. Or the natural law perspective, which is that your responsibility is to minimize human suffering or not cause human suffering and expand human flourishing. Those are the areas that I think that you can really draw responsibility from, other than just like weird creating responsibilities because you want to get something out of it, like quid pro quo, pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't think the author quite makes those connections in this book. Again, it's very much the exploration and appreciation of beauty for what it is.
Yeah.
And that to appreciate beauty, you have to engage with beauty. To engage with beauty, you have to not be repulsive. So that's where I see that there's kind of a failure to establish responsibility. I think the modern critiques of society and how like it's odd because the guy alludes to like masculinity and some of the stuff that I mentioned, but doesn't quite make the connection He's like, yeah, you should be a man, you should be strong, you should be well spoken, you should be learned, you should be traveled, and that kind of stuff. But he doesn't answer the why, other than so girls like you.
Yeah. Well, that was his own incentive, right? And he mostly just kind of talks about himself in this book. So it's like that. I think that kind of tracks with the story, or at least the subject of the story talks about himself the entire book. He doesn't really give the why you should listen, but it is a lot about the why this thing kind of sort of works for me, and I think it would work for everybody kind of approach. And you touched on it, and I think that's like it's oh man, I've seen this pyramid one time where it's like you first have to solve for your own survival, right? Because without your own survival, you can't, do anything for very long. And then after you solve for your own survival, you have to solve for your like immediate small group survival. It's like your family. And then after that, your tribe. And then after that, like your nation or your group or your big big like ideological thing. And like with each of those like survival things, everybody wins when everyone else is solving for these things in that order. When you try and solve for one out of the order and like you haven't solved for the previous, then you kind of skip a step, and and I'm kind of sort of interjecting my own little thoughts in here, just kind of describing the pyramid thing. But where was I going with this? The responsibility that I inferred out of the book wasn't spoken directly. It was kind of like, hey, you have to be this cool thing in order for other people to want to be around you. That's kind of what I got out of that.
I get that, but I guess maybe personally I put more weight on the word like responsibility, because it begs the question why, to whom, for what purpose, versus the answer that you're kind of alluding to from the author is it feels very surface level almost to me.
Yeah. Oh, it's certainly surface level. Certainly surface level. I would not argue with that. Yeah, I suppose I would read the implication that like it goes past surface level. So that's my little interpretation of it. So like for good leadership, you need to have authority, you need to have responsibility, and then you need to have accountability, right? So like one without the others is kind of like when you have responsibility without authority, and it's slavery, as Rollo Tomasi always says. And when you have accountability without authority, then it's like, oh shit, when you're held accountable for something you didn't do, then it's like, shit.
It's called tyranny.
That's tyranny. Yeah, and it's also like kind of leadership, like when the CEO is fired because some dumb employee did some dumb shit that like ruined the brand of the entire, company. It's kind of like it's that's like an example of like those unfair things, but it's like one of the ways that like things work, and the higher you go up in the leadership chain, the more that's a scaling risk sort of thing. So anyways, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here. The responsibility of men. Man, some of these questions are fucking garbage. It's contrasts with grievance-based masculinity online. I think that there's far too much grievance-based masculinity online, so I don't even want to touch that one. Devil's advocate question: is this framework exclusionary or elitist? I don't even like that. We're just going to go on to chapter 6, The Way of Women. The Way of Women, which is the chapter where he describes the feminine nature without resentment, pedestalization, or control, which I think are the three very important considerations. You don't want to pedestalize women. You don't want to not understand them and and hate them for it. And you certainly don't want to like overly control them. I think that's where most people go wrong, is in the resentment, the pedestalization, like being a woman hater, being a simp, or being like a woman corraler. It's like
he does call out all those different tropes.
Yes. Yeah.
Explicitly does.
Yes. And it's like just be the person that doesn't care, that is here to have fun and have a good time, and move forward with that. Why does misunderstanding women often come from misunderstanding men?
Well, the author's answer to this one is that he talks a good deal about a lot of women's communication is what's the word I'm looking for? Like not explicit, implicit,
tacit.
I guess, yeah. But it's like
explicit is described, implicit is implied, and then tacit is you can only get it from like doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the hints, the signs, the subtext, the communication happening underneath the communication, that kind of stuff.
That would be in between implicit and tacit. But continue.
Yeah, it is. The author explicitly says that women are good at this, and they do this a lot, and they expect this. Men do not do this well, and that subtle. That's another word for it. Thank you, Sam. And that due to this, that men don't understand women, so therefore they're not really understanding them. It's kind of the self-reflection of like, I don't understand you because I don't understand what I'm bad at. If I understand what I'm bad at, I can start to get better at it to pick up on what you're talking about and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's the best I got for you on that one, honestly. It's a bit of an abstract question, to be honest. How does not understanding women not understand men? Like different creatures, different ways of moving, that kind of stuff.
The question is predicated on the fact that like most men don't understand themselves, and therefore they also don't understand women. Or like they don't really understand either of the two. And so like I think that focusing on my own personal interpretation of the question, which again written by ChatGPT very quickly, after I showed a screenshot of the chapters. I don't know how much ChatGPT even knows about this book, so I think it did a 60% decent job. But like a man has to understand himself before he can start going about understanding everything else. You have to know the world and how you're measuring it. You have to know where you sit on the scale before you can start like you always got to start in the center before you can expand, sort of deal. And I think that like of these three things that he describes, like the resentment, the simping, and the controlling, like the most important one to fix would be probably the resentment one. I think that that's like if I had to, cast my magical, like I can only pick one of these things for all of men to fix, it would be the resentment one, because like resentment is like a toxicity, or that's the poison that kills everyone, right? The resentment kills both the person who's sending and the person who's receiving. Whereas like the simping and the pedestalization and the controlling, it's like, yeah, they're bad, but they're not as bad as this one that like super duper harms both parties, right? That's my personal take on it. But
I like it.
I think that would really change the male-female dynamic. I think that a lot of men are bitter, and I think that a lot of women are exasperated. And like the first step in fixing that is just kind of like choosing to actively move past those societally pressured and culturally pressured, and like, let's be honest, like realistically pressured sort of kind of feelings. I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on this musing of mine?
No, I think you hit it pretty good.
Okay.
I think that there's two possible ways to frame your answer. One of them is culturally and societally, which is like the day and age we live in. We are the fish. We have to understand that there's water around us and we swim in the water. There's a lot of stuff going on with kind of the battle of the sexes right now, but it's more from a societal standpoint about privileges, access, punishments, that kind of stuff, versus what the author is probably talking about from the resentment standpoint is like maybe resenting women's nature as not being your nature, and that because you don't understand your nature, you kind of damn them. And it's like, it's like, why can't you be more like me? It's like, well, if they were more like you, they'd be a dude. And last time I checked, you're not into dudes. So
yeah, that brings us back to like the thing that we talked about earlier. Like, the polarity is important. Exactly. Why aren't you more like me? Why can't you think in my logical masculine frame of mind? Why do you have to be like jumping around and tying all your answers together? Like, I'm not mansplaining, you're misunderstanding, or what? That's a funny little quote. Shout out to Moondog, who is not with us right now, but he's with us in spirit.
Miss you, buddy.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You were saying something.
No, that was it. That was the end of it.
Excellent. I think that a lot of people that read this book get triggered a little bit by this chapter, the way of women, because he's a man describing a woman. But I don't think I need to dwell on
he
that.
explicitly says that in the book. He's like, look, I'm a dude trying to describe women. This is my take on it and what I have discovered through the process. Might not be correct, but this is at least how it's coming to me in reality. So it's like fair. Again, grain of salt. To be honest with you, a lot of this book, if you are not ready to read this book as it is or try to understand the author's intent, you could read this entire book and get mad about just about everything. Be like, rah. It's like, okay, cool, you're missing the point. Great. You just wasted 18 hours of your life. Good job.
Yeah, and I would say that's on the listener. If you're gonna consume something and like not give it the benefit of the doubt or whatever, then it's like you're just kind of wasting your own time. And you could do that with school. You could do that with work. You could do that with anything. If you're investing your time in something, but you're not investing your attention, then it's like, what are you doing? Why are you like shortchanging yourself of whatever the experience is? Like you could have a horrible experience and learn something. You could have a great positive experience and, be awesome as a result of it. So anyways, that's my little 2 cents there. We got 2 more sections to go. Chapter 7, The Way of Love, and Chapter 8, The Way of Salvation. The Way of Love. Why does Zan Perrion frame vulnerability as strength? I wasn't terribly fond of that that framing that he had, framing vulnerability as strength. What did you think about that?
You probably also weren't very much of a fan of when he talks about a man who can make fun of himself is truly at peace with himself.
I mean, I understand the larger principle. I disagree with the way that he described it, but I get it. It's like the difference between like a like Will Ferrell comedy versus like Jim Carrey comedy. Is that a good analogy?
I think I get where you're going for.
Yeah, I would say that like Jim Carrey, or better yet, Pirates of the Caribbean guy. Fuck, I can't remember his name.
Johnny Depp.
Damn it. Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp humor versus Will Ferrell humor, right? Like self-depreciating Will Ferrell style. And this isn't to like, hate on either of them. I'm not preferential to Will Ferrell's humor style because I think that it's kind of like just like super duper self-depreciating. Whereas like Johnny Depp is like kind of like doesn't take himself seriously, but still is the thing, sort of, kind of. I don't know. Is that a good analogy?
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the Will Ferrell comedies, often a lot of times the character that you're laughing at them because they are pitiful or pathetic, and that you see that it is a pathetic thing, but it's just done in such a way that it's in your face, and you're like, haha, isn't this funny? Versus like Johnny Depp, specifically like Captain Jack Sparrow. He's not a pitiful man. He's a very odd man, and the oddities are funny, and he doesn't do the things that like normal people do, but he does what he does, and it's funny to see the two things clash. That's the difference there. Sorry, I know I got you off on a tangent there with my question, but to answer your question, which is the author talks about vulnerability being a strength. Again, I think this is very much the attacking it from romance and beauty and that kind of stuff, which is that the vulnerability within yourself allows you to connect with other people who have other vulnerabilities, and you're really showing like who you are as a person so that you can see the other person as a person. And that is the thing that he talks about being beautiful. So from that standpoint, if you're trying to see the person as they are, but that person has walls up or you have walls up, you're not sharing that intimate, genuine connection. So that way, when you do show the vulnerabilities, that is the strength in appreciating this beauty. It's very different from probably a lot of other like more tactical kind of stuff that we talk about. Like Machiavelli would absolutely disagree with this sentence 100%, which is like, he is playing the game of games. He's playing politics. He's trying to achieve power. He's not trying to achieve intimacy. It's very different. So you gotta, again, this is a narrow way that the author describes it, but at the same time, from like human connection, it's a lot easier or even more meaningful to connect with people when you do have those vulnerabilities and you see each other for who you are in the moment, perfectly flawed in all your different ways, that kind of stuff. Are you going to work on those flaws? Absolutely, yes. But at the same time, it's understanding the struggle, understanding the journey, seeing the growth. That is the thing that really creates that connection between people. And I think that's what the author's going for in this one.
I agree. And Sam had a really great point to add on to that. It works if it's obviously a clash, like Zenith says about Jack Sparrow, when it's like, the non sequitur of does not follow, as opposed to like, oh, this person's pitiful and they're acting pitiful. As opposed to like, oh, look at this powerful person. Oh, and a silly thing happened. Oh, isn't that quite fun?
I guess
like
the two scenes I'd go for on this one is think of Step Brothers when they're going for the job interviews and they're wearing tuxedos and farting and saying dumb stuff. And then think of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie where he gets to the port for the first time and he's like messing with those two guards. And then he's doing his things. They're like, what are you doing? And then finally at the end, he comes out and he's like, well, my plan was to sail here, raise a group of pirates, steal this ship, take any loot that we can and get out of here. And they look at him and they're like, is he fucking with us? Is he serious? And it's that clash that's the comedy. That's what makes it so funny.
Those are some great movies to rewatch as adults, by the way. I just recently went through the entire Pirates of the Caribbean anthology. They start to jump the shark a little bit later on in the series, but
Pirates 1 is a masterpiece, hands down.
Masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. And speaking of things that are fantastic, polarity and love and vulnerability all exist within the way of love. Do you think that love can exist without the polarity? Do you think that the amalgamized blobs can love each other? The men that act feminine, the women that act masculine, when you put them together, do we get the result that is the love that I think Zan wants us all to experience? Does that work?
So from the author's perspective, I think it's yes and no.
What about from your perspective?
From my perspective, I think the answer is yes, because I love my dude friends. Do I want to kiss my dude friends? No, I love them. Do I love women in my life? Absolutely, as well.
Are we going to get into the 8 different types of love on the Greek?
I was trying to avoid this one.
We've got our agape, we've got our philia, we've got our philaucho, we have eros, we have all the fucking the little Greek fucking thingamajigger.
The author does actually have a good little note from the book on this one, where he specifically says all the different ways the Greeks talk about love due to translations and not understanding exactly what they were talking about. He says that people have there's 2 possible definitions for the eros love. It's either the erotic sexual love or it's just love of beauty. It's like, oh, interesting. Good point.
Yeah. I like both.
To be honest, I cringe whenever conversations devolve into that 7 types of love kind of stuff. But how about this? I'll answer your question as intended. The love romantically,
go ahead.
Can love romantically happen when people are not in their elements or they're polarized? Sure. I think it's not going to be great. And to give you the author's answer, he would argue that love is not this thing that lasts forever. I think the author actually even kind of specifically rebukes the idea of true love or a one true person for you. He's like, love is a thing that you feel and you have. The time span is very different for each one, but ultimately it is something that is fleeting, whether it's long-term or it's short-term. He would describe that he's genuinely loved people that he only was with for 4 or 5 days. And then he's loved people that he's been with for a long time. And it's not the idea that I love that person. It is that love is this thing that we have. It is the bond, it is the connection, it is the moment, it is the intimacy. It's all of it wrapped up as this experience.
Yeah.
So from his perspective, to answer the question, I think that the answer is yes, which is that you could still have that love, even if it's not in your element, even if it's not a woman and a man in their elements doing the dance. Even if there are people that are not all that way, they can still find other people and still have those connections. They're going to be different from his perspective, but the concept of can you have that love? I would say the answer is yes.
I did not expect that answer, but that's well stated. I think it's
and real quick, by the way, we got Fast Abdul joining us. He says, yes. I'm here for the tech. I am so sorry, sir. No tech tonight, just love.
There's tech tonight. The technology is the technology of love and beauty and poetry, which I think are interesting technologies that would be good for us to remember and to continue to invest in. So good to see you, Mr. Fast Abdul. Welcome, welcome. I will say that
do you think the author would argue that love can happen without the polarity?
If I'm giving it my there's exceptions to everything answer, then I would say yes. But I would say if we're looking at the middle of the bell curve where most of the substance of the answer is, then I would say no. So it's you can technically have the love without the polarity. Sure, why not? Right? Just like every time you hop into your car, you're not going to get into an accident. But it's we answer questions based on, or at least I'm answering this question from the probability standpoint more so than the possibilities. Sure, it's possible that love can exist without the polarity, but I think that the polarity brings about like the at least the chemical feelings of love and of appreciation and of stuff like that. So I think that we're all searching for something that we don't have. We're not searching for stuff we already got. So in that sense of like the romanticization, it's like I'm not looking to go and, well, I mean, again, out of the bell curve, discluding homosexuality and whatever, right? We're all searching for something that we don't have. And so like that the logical conclusion to that for me anyways is like we're looking for polarity. Like the north looks for the south with like the magnets and things, or maybe no, yeah, north goes to south and magnets. I had to think about that for a second. um but like the love from the chemical perspective comes from that. Now like love from the like decision, you could look to interpret love as two things, right? You have the physical chemical attractions that we have inside, that like make us feel good and do all the great things, right? That's what we're trying to inspire constantly, is like we're trying to get that dopamine, those endorphins, that oxytocin, all of those wonderful little molecules and stuff. We're trying to get those into our receptors. But like there's the other type of love, which is like my child is crying right now, and boy howdy, do I not like it, but I'm still going to get up and go like feed it or change its diaper or do whatever. Like the type of love where we have to do something that we don't enjoy, where it's more of a decision that is based on like, I know that I have to invest in this person that is making me feel bad, so that way I feel good later. And that way, like that's the like the nitty gritty of it, right? Like the choosing to love someone as an active choice rather than like as I feel good and it's easy sort of thing. So like that type of love doesn't need the polarity. That type of love is the more like clinical, like I'm choosing to help you do the things that you want to do because that's like me investing in the future. That's the delayed gratification sort of thing. And then the polarity is more of like the immediate gratification. That's the stuff that like keeps us going every day. It's like the little tiny micro motivations that I think gets us growing. So I suppose now that I've talked myself into a circle, I'm gonna say maybe to both of them instead of like the definitive no. So
that's
there we
fair.
go.
I'll tell you what, I think this is actually a decent segue to one of the points that the author talks about in the book, which is that he drops a line about saying that love is symmetrical, and if you're in an asymmetrical relationship, that's not love as he's defining it or talking about the experience. It is your surface instincts of like lust and attraction, that kind of stuff happening. It is love is when two people have the same thing for each other. So even if the things they're doing for each other are asymmetrical or different, it is still symmetrical because it is about giving to each other instead of like thinking about the relationship of like, I'm always buying this girl flowers, always taking her out, and she like gives me a kiss on the cheek and stuff like that. It's again a very like metaphysical idea to think about the relationship in love in that standpoint. There is, I would argue, some aspect of the action or the choice that you mentioned, which is like you're choosing to do this because you're choosing to give to the person because you love that person, you are in love, the love is symmetrical, it's reciprocated, that stuff. So it's again like the guy, we get pretty deep on this, and it's not like I love this person, therefore I do X. It's again goes to what the author talks about in beauty and connection stuff. It is the feeling, it is the giving, it is not expecting, it is I am appreciating this beauty and I want to give, and she gives me, and you don't try to weigh it out. You're just like, I give to her, she gives to me, done. Enough said.
Mm-hmm. While you were talking about that, you spurred like a thought that I was having where it's like, man, there's things that I will do for people, and there's things that people will do for me, and then there's things that I won't do for people, and there's things that like they won't do for me, and the like the relationship between the two people can only go as far as the do's like extend into where we start meeting the don'ts, right? So like say like Zenith, no matter how much I love you, you're never going to have my children. So our relationship stops at that point, and we can never progress to that children having spot. And likewise, like I'm probably never going to kill your mother for you, no matter how much you ask me to. Or another horrible example that was just the first thing that popped into my head, bro.
Terrible
Sorry.
example, sir.
I love your mother.
What?
Your mother's a wonderful person, and that's why I will never do it. So you can't make me do it. And so the relationship between us can never progress to the point where it's like, if this is the thing that I need in order to get love from you, then like we can't get to this point. We'll never get that far. We will only progress as far in the relationship until we meet like, I won't do this for you, or you won't do that for me. And like some people can be moved on some of their principles. Some of them can like learn to like better things at other times, but it's like there's definitive stops, which everyone has to come to terms with, and everyone has to realize that like every single person in your life has these stops at some point. And like with the exception of like the ride or die people that are just like, oh, I'll do a fucking anything for you, and it's like, oh, I should probably be careful around that, because that's something that could get me into a peck of trouble. So like this is what I was thinking of as you were describing this, is like there's these walls that like as we are interacting with people, we have to figure out like what's the stopping point, what's my goal, and like is my goal within the stopping point, or is my goal outside of the stopping point? Do I have to cut this relationship off because like Zenith's like, oh man, I gotta let go of Will because he keeps trying to to kill my parents or something, and it's like, damn, I gotta let go of Zenith because he won't have babies or something, and it's like we have to determine like, where does the relationship go, where do I go, and then the other person has to do the same thing if they're calibrated. And if the people if they don't go through these like these little what would you call it, like a cost benefit analysis, not a cost benefit, but like a paying attention to like the battle lines in the sand, and like how far will things get, and how far do people like want to be, then folks will run into trouble. And if they don't do it for a long period of time, then they end up like just throwing money down, or throwing investment down a rabbit hole if they want to go further than what the stopping point is. But as long as you're like inside the stopping point, then you can have like great and awesome relationships with people, and perhaps you can even move your own lines and things of that nature. So that was just some of the stuff that I was thinking of as you were talking there. So I don't want to kill your parents, and I also don't want to have children with you. So
I think I'm good with both of those.
I think we're both good with that. So that's great. So that means we can continue to be awesome friends on the Degen Roundtable. And by the way, we can be great friends with you guys, the folks at home, with the chat motherfucking shout outs, because we've been joined not only by Mr. Fast Abdul, who is I guess he's here for the gay tech. Sorry, bro. The gay tech is not going to work. Me and Zenith will never get married.
We just hashed that one out. It's not happening.
We just hashed it out. You guys saw it. You guys see it live on the air here. But we've been joined by Mr. Fast Abdul. So shout out to you, good sir. Glad to have you with us. And then also we've got Mr. Moondog, who says, howdy rowdies. What's up, Moondog? Good to see you, broski. I was just shouting you out earlier because you had a great quote, and I wish I could remember what it was. I'm sure if you watch on replay, or if you type in Control F for the
hard
script.
to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, Moondog has a lot of great points and things. But good to see you, broski. What is it? Manifested it. Manifest destiny. We were thinking about you, and the direct energy beamed on down, and Moondog was like, I got to get on this Degen Roundtable stream. So here you are. Glad that we can have you though, broski. And then we've got Sam giving all sorts of crazy fun words, and I don't remember what the context was.
I was talking about trying to like communicate through like body language and subtlety and stuff like that. What's the
That's right. Subtle, elusive, indefinite, indistinct, fraudulent. That's great. Excellent. Okay. Time for the last part of the book, because we're not even going to bother with chapter 9 because it's like a fucking, it's a tiny little poem. So chapter 8, The Way of Salvation. What is being saved in Zan Perrion's framing? And is salvation individual, relational, or spiritual? Man, I'm going to be honest. I don't remember this part of the book. Do you have anything?
The way that the guy talks, he uses the word salvation. When you and I think of the word salvation, odds are it's religious.
Yeah.
The author does not mean it in that way at all. What he's talking about is trying to like get above your flesh and your feelings and how they make you do the things that don't attract the other sex kind of thing. And it's more of the salvation from like societal pressures and bonds and shame and stuff like that, so that you can just experience love and people and the relationship that you have with them, that kind of stuff. This is definitely one of the more abstract chapters, but there are some good parts that come out of this chapter. I want to say this is a multi-part chapter as well. One of the big ones that I took out of this one was that the author specifically talks about like the battle of the sexes in the modern day and age. Because like, are there people that do this? Are there the crazy blue hair feminists? Are there the misandrists and the guys that just hate women? Yes. Guess what? They are vocal fringe minorities. Odds are, if you are not that, you're going to be able to appreciate the opposite gender sex for what they are and appreciate the beauty in that, and be able to have these genuine connections with people if you're not part of that group. So I like that, and it's hopeful. It's very optimistic. It's like, look, yeah, social media age, communications all over the place, headlines, hype, boom, 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 everywhere. Understand what it is. Are you that? I don't think you are. I don't think you identify with that. Good news. Guess what? There's a lot of other people like you. Good chance. So get out there, go to the bar, go talk to people, do the fun stuff, get the intimate connection stuff. So like, yes, that was one of the big hopeful messages I got out of this chapter, which is fantastic.
I just Googled like, what is the chapter, and man, this actually is a pretty damn good chapter. Yeah, and it is. It's 17% of the entire book. I don't know how I like glazed over this, but the basic like premise and question of the chapter is like, what do you do once you're alive? Like the whole book is framed as trying to be like, this is how you become a man who is alive. And chapter 8 is like, okay, now that you're alive, what are you going to do with it? You know?
Yeah, part of this is even the old Fight Club pitch too.
Yeah,
it talks about the idea of the salvation that he's talking about. The non-religious salvation is the salvation from the modern slog, from the cubicle, from Microsoft Excel. It's saying that like through the connection, you can feel alive to overcome the numbness that you feel from having to input the data into the cells, that kind of stuff. And specifically even talks about like the aliveness is the thing that allows you to appreciate the beauty. If you are in the numbness, you're not going to appreciate the beauty. If you're alive, you're able to appreciate the beauty, and that will also help you keep going above the numbness and all the stuff trying to drag you back down.
Would you say that the Alabaster Girl is like a spiritual book for people who would normally reject a spiritual book?
Like honestly, I would argue, yeah. The way that the guy talks, we even started off, it's very poetic, it's flowery, it's artistic, but a lot of what the guy talks about, even when he talks about like love and relationships and connection and flirting and even sex, it's very not mechanical. In fact, it's the opposite. It's almost like he's making a spiritual argument. It's like he's arguing about soul, like soul connecting to soul, that kind of stuff, instead of just like, clapping cheeks and stuff. And even the tactics of like, I do X to pick up the girl. I say her friend's prettier to make her feel self-conscious, and then she'll try to prove herself. No, it's not that. Like, honestly, I know you kind of framed the question. Like, it sounds kind of crazy, but like, is this almost a religious argument book? I would say yes, because it argues to things that are beyond self. It argues to things that are beyond mechanical. It argues it's artistic. It's trying to appreciate beauty for beauty, not just like the thing like this person has a symmetrical face and proportional ratio of like height, bust, width, that kind of stuff. No, it's like these things have inherent beauty, and I am trying to see the inherent beauty and reject all the other stuff that says differently. He's trying to see the good for good and see the soul, see the things that are immaterial.
I like that. That's a good place to, I think, end. Do you have any final thoughts on chapter 8? Because I like that a lot. That was a great like condensing of it.
Oh, as always, Uncle Z has his critiques, but if you don't want to get into that, we don't have to get into that.
Well, no. Let's hear it. So we've just had a beautiful thing. Now, like, nothing is beautiful that doesn't end. That's another part of the book, is like, if it doesn't end, then it's not beautiful. There has to be a contrast for the beauty. The pizza doesn't taste great unless you have broccoli and Brussels sprouts every now and again.
Shout out to all my anime watchers that have seen Code Geass. Yes, they understand this concept.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Right.
What are some of the critiques that you have about this book? Because I certainly have some.
Here's my critique for why this is not a dating manual.
Oh yeah, absolutely not a dating manual.
openly acknowledges that he tries to love all women, including women that actively tell him that they have a boyfriend or even a husband. And that does not dissuade this man for 1 second. In fact, he makes jokes out of it and stuff like that. And the weird thing for me is that towards the end of the book, he even has a section on relationships, talking about how relationships goes through these phases of like, you have the spark, you see each other, you have the initial seduction, which is the flirting conversation. Then that leads to openness. And then that leads to the physical and stuff like that. And then ultimately you get into a habit, and then you start to resent each other for the exact things that got you in there. And then ultimately you break up and that kind of stuff. And it's almost like the author is actively trying to say that like relationships are like stable, almost permanent till death relationships are not the natural way of doing things. I'd say that's almost what he's arguing here, because he's saying that the things that are truly beautiful and love is fleeting and it has an expiration date. It's stuff like that. And also the fact that the guy is openly saying like, there are no boundaries. I do what I want. I go where I please, including your girl. It's like, a homie, like you're gonna like he even talks about it, he's like, yeah, guys have showed up at my house, like shout at me, like, why'd you bang my wife and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you are missing the thing that you're going for. Like, am I on board with you that appreciating women for their femininity and their womanhood is beautiful? Yes. You taking this to your logical conclusion are things that actively destroy society and stuff like that. And I think there's even like almost a lack of self-awareness to it too, because again, towards the end of the book, the guy openly acknowledges that he's the other dude in these relationships that go astray. And he calls himself a scoundrel, but he explicitly rejects the idea that he is the one who destroyed the relationship. He's like just throwing up his hands and be like, oh, I didn't do anything. It's just the way things go. I go with the flow. It's like, no, agency. You have agency. You understand how these things work, and yet you still interjected yourself. And at the end of it, you throw up your hands and say, it's just the way she rolls, bro. No.
Can I would like to not necessarily disagree with you, because I see where you're coming from. If you never kick the lock on the gate, like, how do you know it's a good lock? What he does is he kicks all the locks, and he hits the locks with hammers, and a lot of them bust open, and the relationships fail as a result of that. You know, do you think that like what do you think about like an untested lock on a gate that just like you can live your entire life in a shitty relationship, or in a relationship that's not optimal and never be tested, and then never truly, like, he's a flashpoint, right? That's kind of how I sort of see this. And I agree that it's not moral to do. And I would also and on the flip side, I would say that like, if a girl is going to like be tempted and cheat, then she's going to be tempted and cheat. Same thing for like anybody, right? That's my pushback that I would give. And like, absolutely right, he is a scoundrel and he is a douchebag, and he is deliberately doing a thing that ruins something that could otherwise be like a beautiful thing. And also, like, it's not necessarily correct to destroy something that's in the process of growing, that hasn't necessarily reached its full potential yet. So like, I'm with you there a little bit, but I just wanted
your
to
analogy of
bit.
the locks.
Yeah.
If you kick the lock, are you testing it? Yes. If you go around and kick all the locks, you are a vandal, and you will be arrested for vandalism for destruction of property.
Correct.
If everyone is kicking all the locks will be broken, because things break. It
becomes a question of, do you want to find good locks, or do you want a world where people can like put locks on gates, you know?
Yeah. And again, this also kind of goes back to the idea of like possession, of like having your relationship, having your girl. He's like, no, all women are my girl. They just don't know it. It's like, all right, calm down, dude. But here's an argument I'll go for. When people make mistakes, and the guy even in the book openly talks about, you will be making mistakes, it's part of learning, that kind of stuff. A big common phrase that we hear people say when they make mistakes is that they have a moment of weakness or something. It's like, okay, cool. That even is kind of like humans trying to extend grace to other people, if you go along with that premise. But even if you still say, no, you still have responsibility and stuff, the question still remains, which is like, the lock did break. Is it a great lock? No. Might it have broken later? Sure. Could it not have broken later had you not kicked it as well? The answer is also yes, which is that if you're, like, they might have done it anyways, but at the same time, they might not have as well. You don't know. It's like the Schrodinger's box of it. So it's like, are you
You're the harbinger?
Yeah. So as like you and I trying to like have a relationship with someone, would we hope that the person we're in a relationship with would not take advantage of those opportunities? Yes. At the same time, do you understand that if a woman keeps getting offered these things all the time, eventually they might say yes? Sure. The same thing goes vice versa to us as well in the relationship. Yeah. Which that if women kept trying to seduce us, do you think ultimately you might fall in one day? Yeah, it's possible. So it's like, it's not saying go test everything all the time, because at that point you're just kicking the locks to break them.
I agree.
Like, oh, you're like, haha, these locks are bad. Locks are bad. Locks break. It's like, no, you're missing the point of the locks entirely.
Yeah.
It's like, it's again, the whole point of me bringing this up though is to show the contrast and understand where that suspension of disbelief comes in, which is that, is this artistic expression and appreciation of beauty? Yes. The description of the way that the person in the book lives their life is very, very different from what I would argue is the human experience. Because one of the other things that is completely gone in this book is any idea of family creation. The guy talks about having sex a lot, doesn't talk about having kids. So it's like, this is very one-dimensional view kind of thing. If everyone did this, human race would go extinct in whoever the youngest Zoomer is right now, or the youngest child to be born, when they die, the rest of society dies if everyone lives this way. Because there's nothing beyond what the author is talking about. At the same time, are there good points the author has? Yeah, the appreciation of beauty, the human connection, all fantastic. At the same point, though, this book is not self-encompassing. This book is a small thing on the side of how people normally construct their lives. Will this help add to your life? Yeah, for sure. It'll definitely help. It'll help you appreciate beauty, give you a little hope, a little optimism, maybe give you a break from reading The Wealth of Nations by John Adams. Much appreciated break. But at the same time, though, it's like there's so much more to life beyond this. And the way that the author describes himself in this book is that this is a life that is purely about seeking experiences without anything else.
Yeah. Yep.
Like
very
the author would,
okay.
Exactly. I was about to go there. The author, I think, would outright reject that this is hedonism, but definitionally, the description of this book, taken to its logical conclusion, is hedonism.
Man, this doesn't ever happen. I'm getting a call from prison jail. That's quite fascinating. Sorry.
Go to jail, Will. They heard the podcast. We said too many controversial things.
No, I know who's calling me right now. He's in jail about 30 minutes away from me. But oh man, I wonder if I call it back if it'll work. But anyways, let's go ahead and have you covered all of the critiques that you wanted to about the show? That's
really the big one. I think that if you take the book at face value, you'll get a lot of appreciation out of it. If you try to dig deeper from the surface level stuff, you're going to end up with a lot of contradictions, and you're going to end up with a lot of like, this man is talking about how to live life. But if even if multiple men that live their lives this way kind of like ran into each other, I bet a lot of this stuff would go out the door and the fisticuffs would come out. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I think that there would be a lot of problems if people did that. My critiques about the book were more along the lines of like, my God, is he slow at reading inaudible, and he pauses way too long between words. I was
you go 3 times speed, big guy.
Well, but 3 times speed, like it still doesn't fix the pause in between the words. He speaks like this. And it's like 3 times speed. It's like he speaks like this, and it's just like it was a really weird cadence. I wanted all the pauses between the words to be taken out, because it was like, man, this 9-hour book would be 6 hours if that was the case, and if we talked like a normal person speed. But that's the main critique that I had about.
I guess I had one final thing to try to sound very intelligent here, but it's something that I've discovered somewhat recently through some of the other books I've read, which is that if I had to describe the way that the author has a worldview, I would actually describe it as Greek, like classical Greek, like 400 BC Greek. The reason I say this is that I would argue the author talks about reality in the world as these are the things that they are. There's not much you can do. You just navigate it. And it reminds me of a play that I watched and read called The Brackeye. It is a Greek play about a mayor who's running a town. There's one of the local like demigods that comes in and starts doing weird stuff. He starts luring women up to this mountain, and they pretty much puts them in a trance. You could say they get drunk, they do drugs, whatever, and then they have orgies up there and stuff. And then the mayor of the town is a rational, sane, respected man. He's like, this is bad. We have to stop this. And then ultimately, he's killed by one of the women, his wife actually, that is seduced and lured up to the mountain, given stuff. And in a trance, she comes down, kills him, and is dancing around with his head at the end. And then ultimately, at the end, does she realize what she does?
Yep.
The theme of the play is that it makes it sound like that mayor who's doing the sensible thing to try to stop the destruction of his town and his family is doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. The reason that's the case is because that's actually the way that the play is written for those people at the time, which is that you don't argue with the will of the gods. These things happen. They are the way that they are. The way that you live your life is that sometimes you don't do the rational thing. You have to go with the will of the gods. And in this case, for the book, the author is describing, here is the way that the world is. In order to experience the world fully, you have to see the beauty. You have to like detach from stuff. You have to not worry about the other stuff. You got to be vulnerable, that kind of thing. And then you don't have to worry about relationships and labels and who's mine, who's yours, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's very much this kind of rejection of the sensible in pursuit of this artistic idea almost. So I'm like, that's the way. So if you can understand kind of what the author's worldview or frame for the world is, you're going to get a lot more out of this book. But at the same time, you can read the book, understand the worldview, see the things that are beautiful that he's talking about, but also at the same time realize that, no, I don't want to have a lingerie party where all my ex-girlfriends and their boyfriends show up, and then I try to kiss all of them and then shake their hands afterwards immediately. That's not going to go well.
That was a strange part of the book. That stuck out to me quite a bit.
For good reason.
For good reason, yes. And you know, that gets us talking about it, so I guess it worked. We've been excited and had the indignance raised. Overall, what do you think?
I genuinely enjoyed this book. I really did. It was a fun read. It was nice. Again, it kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier, which is like, even in the social media age where you get all the hype and all the stuff, when you see beautiful things, you are awestruck. You get hit by it. And you're like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. The way that it describes beauty and appreciating women, and then the dynamic between men and women, that is truly a beautiful thing. And I think he does a very good job of it in trying to elicit that emotion of like, there's beauty in this world, there's beauty in people, beauty in each other, and that you can really draw it out and have these fantastic moments. Because I think we all have those moments, whether it's like you and the boys hanging out, going through this thing, you're drinking, you played Halo 3, you went to the park, you threw a picnic table in a lake, you're just being that kind of stuff. Or it's like you bump into that girl and the sparks immediately, and she's there and you're there, and she says things and you say things, and you just feel that closeness and together. And eventually maybe you go on dates and you get in bed and you have that wonderful experience as well. It's like, there's a lot of that you can take from this book. Genuinely enjoyed it. I really did.
Hell yeah.
And I can still say that and then also critique the hell out of this guy too.
I really want to chat GPT to make a picture of me and the boys throwing a picnic table into the lake. But that's for later. I enjoyed the book as well. I thought it was a great read. I really liked the poetic nature of the book. I think that it's a good religious book for men who aren't religious. I think that that's a good way to put it. And I think that like a lot of people would benefit from the reading of it. I don't know about women benefiting from it, but like, I'm not a woman, so I don't really know. I'm fairly positive that most men in our day and age would benefit a lot from reading it.
I would argue that women would probably enjoy this book as well, because it's
cross perspective.
Yeah. The reason that I say that is also because I'm not a woman, so I'm gonna do what the author is. Say I can't really talk for them, but I'm gonna try to anyways. Which is that I think this book will hopefully, from the female perspective, give you hope as well. Which is that men see you as these things and these wonderful experiences that you can have together, and that again, the battle of the sexes is the fringe militant groups, and there's so many people in the middle that are willing to have those connections with you and willing to try to be the best versions of each other, so you can experience the best versions of each other as well. So definitely male perspective for the dudes, but at the same time, hopefully the ladies can get something out of this too and feel good at the end.
I would on the scale of 0 to 10,000 hours, I'm going to remove any of the quantification of what is the 10,000 because it's not on the crypto journey.
It doesn't really fit there.
Not relevant to the crypto journey, but on the journey of learning to being better, I think that this book would be a good read, probably about 1,000 or 2,000 hours in. I think that everyone can probably benefit from it, but it doesn't really it doesn't answer questions. It doesn't it invokes different ways of thinking, which I think is important for a lot of people. And
For sure.
so I think that people can take that and they can use it to their benefit, and they can break their worldview and mold another one. They can be bold and perhaps trudge on through this weary life that is full of awesomeness and excitement. So that's my thoughts. What do you think on a scale of 0 to 10,000 hours from nothingness to excellence? Where should a person interject this book?
It goes directly after where we put The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, so that you don't,
Oh, so it's like the eye bleach.
Mouthfeel. Yeah.
It's the mind bleach. After you see the horrible things on the internet, you go look at videos of puppies and kittens, kind of thing.
There you go.
Yes, excellent. That's a good spot. So fantastic. Well, Mr. Zenith, this has been a great journey on this Degen Roundtable Book Club. I think it's time for some closing out. Where can the folks find you, and what have you got going on in the near future, good sir?
Folks, you can find me over on X and Instagram at ZenithDI, but more importantly, you can find myself and Will and the rest of the community over inside the private Telegram group. You can get there by scanning the QR code right here. Inside of there, you'll find the ongoing chats, all the sub channels with the memes, the games, and maybe some spicy memes as well, if you dare to go that route as well. But outside of that, we have a fantastic community. We appreciate all you guys so much. And you can also check out the book club Telegram, where we post our notes for when we're reading the books, and we try to come up with stuff to have conversation here. But outside of that, we are going to be back on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as is all of our streams, for the flagship Sunday news show. We got a good bit to cover, and always stuff happening in the crypto markets. I personally happen to think that we're at a bit of a important inflection point for the markets. It's the classic big debate of, is the 4-year cycle true? Is the 4-year cycle dead? Do we have an extended cycle? That kind of stuff. We have a lot of macro news events coming up. Fed meeting, end of the month. We also have the Clarity Act going through Congress. We also have a bunch of stuff going on internationally that is affecting the way that monetary is kind of fighting with each other, whether you're the Chinese dollar, is it the yuan?
Yuan.
Yeah. Thank you. Or the US dollar, or you're perhaps some of that elusive Bitcoin from Venezuela that we don't know exactly where it is yet. All that stuff and more on Sunday. Outside of that, Wednesday, Whiskey Wednesday, as always, where we're going to hang out with you, the community, come on stream, hang out, chop it up, talk about anything and everything all at the same time. And then, yes, we will be back next Friday for another book club. I do not have a book picked out yet. I did, but I forgot the title of it. Not quite heavy finance, but it's going to be more kind of like social societal, I think. That's what I'm going for. I think it'll be good. But yeah,
excellent.
That's what I got. All right, Mr. Will Stevenson, where can the folks find you, and what do you have going on in the near future?
I can be found in Dallas, Texas, in the nearby regions for at least this weekend, where where we're getting snowed in with a whole little tiny itty bitty. So I don't know how much snow is supposed to be falling. So we'll fucking see, I suppose. And the local Texans will lose their minds. It'll be amusing.
The power grid will go down.
Yes, right. But you guys can find me and all of my socials at will.pls.fyi. That's what's going on with me. You can find Zenith at ZenithDI, both on X and Instagram. And you can find the Degen Roundtable at t.me/DRT join now, or you can watch us right here on YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're catching us. youtube.com/@Degen Roundtable. And for those of you guys that are listening, to join the Telegram is t.me/DRT, Delta Romeo Tango, DRT join now. That's what we've got for that. Like Zenith said, we are live every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday here over on the Degen Roundtable, and we look forward to seeing you guys. And reminder from Moondog, you can't spell beautiful without an eye full. And honestly, beauty is as much about how you pay attention as it is what you pay attention to, according to the voices in my head, at least. So good to know. Thank you guys for joining us on this fine and fancy day. And I just got to say this about the Alabaster Girl. The Alabaster Girl lingers because it doesn't tell you what to do. It leads you to notice who you are being. If you were waiting for this book to give you answers, it probably disappointed you. But if it made you uncomfortable in ways you couldn't quite explain, then that's the point. The final chapter isn't about salvation from women or culture or failure. It's about salvation from being divided against yourself. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the Degen Roundtable. As Agent Jay often says, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing that asset right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson, but more importantly, you have been watching the Degen Roundtable, and I'm the producer, so I'm getting my trigger finger ready because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to Degen responsibly. Oh no. Why is it not working? Click. Extra spicy out.